Welcome to the Rational Egoist. I'm your host, Michael Liebowitz. Well, there's a lot going on in the world of libertarians. They've recently had a convention. There's some disputes going on between different factions, and I can think of no one better to be here to talk to us about it today than Maj Toure. Maj, welcome back to the show.
What's up, Michael? How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm enjoying some of your Twitter posts that you got going on. Going
Yeah.
on. So what happened? You were at this convention, and a lot of people are talking about it. I've heard people say that it was a dirty move that ended up getting Chase Oliver in. I've heard other people say, well, the Mises Caucus tried the same thing. It just didn't work. Dave Smith apparently is out of the party or is stepping back, not out of the party, stepping back from the party. What actually happened?
Kind of a culmination of all of those things. I say all or most of those things. As somebody that was there for the whole entire time, I want to be very clear. I was not paid by the Mises Caucus to show up. I was not paid for transportation to show up. I'm not saying this as a diss to them. I just like to be very clear because people will mistake me being somewhere to learn and to lend energy. They'll take that as, oh, of course, they paid him. So I like to clear the air off top. Nobody asked me to man the Mises booth. I had some merch of my own, and I'm like, all right, since I'm here, I might as well sell some merch and man the table, which is what I did. No, it wasn't a Hollywood thing. No, I didn't have a backstage pass to every single thing in the universe. It's not what I was there for. I was there to learn, to pay attention, because I knew that it would be just like Reno. I knew that there would be some things that I needed to see for self to make a objective, well-rounded and robust perspective on. And I did. I was in the delegate when the delegates' business was happening. I got there Friday. I left Sunday, late Sunday night, early Sunday morning, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. So it was a mixture of some of those things. Some of those things, each side is going to embellish a little bit. But overall, it was, politics as usual. It was somebody saying a thing. This is nothing that happens that doesn't happen in any of the political parties. There's going to be partisanship. There's going to be internecine rivalries. If we look at the Republican camp, we see, maybe not the Democrats. The Democrats are just insane. However, their insanity is so collectively accepted that they may not have the same level of internecine rivalry because they know that their policies are so insane that they have no room for a misstep. They have no room for anybody stepping off code. We have to say Joe Biden is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that's that, for our money train to continue. And they're on point with it. And I think their on point is wrong. But my point is, generally in any other political party, you're going to run into these internecine rivals and rivalries. In the Republican Party, you're going to see neocons. You're going to see the pundits reflect that. You're going to see actual libertarians that only are Republicans because, and I don't mean this in a diss, they're Republicans in name only because they're actually libertarians like Thomas Massey, right? Rand Paul, or insert whoever. So you're going to see different factions in any of these groups. The areas that have, or factions or parties that have, or movements that have more internecine rivalries tend to have more freedom and respect for freedom. That's the Libertarian Party. They're the tent. I say this all of the time. The Libertarian Party is the big tent that the GOP pretends to be. So you're going to have beef and discussions and disagreements. And that's how the Constitution, the Federalist Papers, all of that happened because of that. So I'm not mad at the internecine rivalries. I challenge everybody to look at what happens when you have too much focus on internecine rivalry. You may get somebody that may not be what you would think is the best representation of your party. And I think that all of those things culminating happened in that regard as it relates to Chase Oliver. Now, also want to be very clear. Most of the people that are complaining about Chase Oliver have not even read his website. They haven't. I am objective. I do not need the libertarian movement. I like libertarianism. I love liberty. I do not need the party. I do not need the movement in any way, shape, or form. I enjoy it. And I enjoy educating and informing people about these things and opening new markets. It's like almost like starting a business for me. It's like open a new market, see new people come in, see people engage, grow, the market grows, and then I have an exit strategy as I would a business. You want to make the business great, a bigger guy comes along and you sell the business and you got to out, right? Not saying that I'm going to do all of that, but I enjoy that part of the process. I say that to say, these are things that I recognize that America needs, not that Maj as the individual needs, right? America needs a party that has some arguing, that has some freedom, that has some different perspective. That morally means a different thing. But when you read Chase's platform, it sounds libertarian. The words that are on the website sound libertarian. His acceptance speech sounded libertarian. So I would challenge everybody that's going to maybe even push back before we get fully enveloped in this conversation today. I would challenge everybody to read the actual words separate from the areas that myself and maybe most of the listeners will disagree with. You're going to disagree with some of his posts. Some of them are fake. They're fake. I've seen it. They're fake. The one about Ron, he's not with Ron Paul in 2020 on Facebook. That's fake, right? But I would challenge everybody to kind of look at that a little bit and in separate conversations and see where they land.
Right.
So you get to that space. That's how Chase gets there, because people are focused on the delegates, not the overall libertarians and liberty movement. The delegates have internecine rivalries, as most parties will do in-house. Libertarians have more of a passion for public discourse and discussion. They don't do that in-house because they're standing so much on what their principles are. The Democrats do it more in-house because they're all fucking deceptive. All of their policies are fucked. So they got to kind of like be quiet about their beef behind closed doors. Saying this all to say, these are some of the, and I'm painting with a broad brush, so we can get into whichever lane at a time you want.
There's a lot of lanes, absolutely.
Yeah, so these are the reasons how we get to Chase Oliver. I'm not sure where I'm landing on Chase Oliver right now, but I can tell from a moral perspective and a liberty perspective, give a little bit more insight to how my brain is operating as it relates to him, as well as a few other questions that I'm pondering about him and this movement and the party in and of itself.
Now, you mentioned that the people that are criticizing him, a lot of them haven't even read his platform.
Yeah.
I've seen, and through my Twitter feed, a lot of just anti-gay comments directed at him. You know what I mean? Now,
I didn't laugh. I'm not laughing.
No. I know.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, you could clarify because maybe some other people don't know, but I know your stance.
Right.
But so I've seen that. Now, dealing with the same people, and what I mean by same people, I don't know that it's the same individuals. Like you said, whenever you deal with these subjects, it becomes necessary to paint with a broad brush. I've had issues with people from the Mises Caucus. Obviously, you're in the Mises Caucus. I have no issues with you.
Yeah.
So, but in getting into discussions with whether it be in Clint Russell's feed or Dave Smith's feed or Josh Smith's feed, people associated with the Mises Caucus wing or the more right wing factions within the libertarian movement, I've dealt with that sort of thing because my last name happens to be a Jewish last name. I'm an atheist, you know what I mean? But I'll get all the time, oh, look at his last name. That says everything. And they'll put like dancing
It's the Jews.
Yeah, like all the time. And I see that you're dealing with similar stuff where people come at you with these racist comments. And I just, that stuff to me has no place in
yes,
a
it does, and no,
movement.
it doesn't. Yes, it does, and no,
okay, well, explain that to me. How does it?
People get to be free and get to be absolute morons.
Oh yeah,
like,
I agree with that.
I don't think that tactically, because I got to be clear, this perspective is for what you said was the social media threads and comment sections of certain members, right, or certain folks. Anybody can from anywhere can pretend that they're down with that person and hop in their thread and say anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of that. You should be able to say whatever you want. I need you to come from behind cover and concealment fully so I can stitch you all the way up. So I can see who you are. That part has a place strategically for me so I can identify who you are. The people that are more clandestine, you have a more difficult time recognizing them, right? And I love for those people that are less tactical, I'll say it that way. I love for them to make it easier for me to pay attention to who you are. But some of those people in those threads, this is where it turns into a deep state conversation for me. I'm not convinced that those are real people. I'm not convinced that some of those people, somebody called me an Uncle Tom and all of this other stuff today.
I saw that.
First
Yeah.
of all, I'm from Philly. Like, my feelings on the inside, they've been dead. Like, if you're not my girl or my family, I probably don't give a fuck. I just don't.
Your
So,
knowledge on the topic I enjoyed because you gave the correct response. First of all, Uncle Tom wasn't a sellout. Anyone who's
Uncle
read the
Tom was
book
the
knows
one that
that.
was the hero.
Yeah, he was a principled badass, right?
And there's too many layers of misinformation and context that the person, similar to this conversation around Chase Oliver, oh, the deep state has infiltrated the Libertarian Party. That's specifically the reason why I went there, to see the context.
Right.
Most times it's not the deep state. When the deep state wants you, right, they will Julian Assange you. They will Edward Snowden you. This isn't, or they will John F. Kennedy you, right? They will potentially, your presidential helicopter will just disappear, right? Or crash. My point in saying this is some of that shit ain't deep state. Some of that is just people having political interests. And this situation with Chase, and watching it the whole weekend, there's context that if you don't even know how the similar to ranked choice voting, the delegates do in order to pick that presidential candidate, you don't know that. If you don't know the situation, what happened in that, hey, I'm going to do this, and then they do something else. If you don't know that, it's too much information that you're missing. And I'd have to educate you on some of these things, not you, but some
No,
people.
I know what you mean.
Saying
Yeah.
this. They're missing too much context and nuance, and it matters, right? And so it's like almost like saying, yo, I saw this guy say this on some old video from back in the day, and it was like, well, if somebody says why to everything, you have to inform them about every layer of the conversation that they're missing. My wife went out, I stayed home today. Why? Because my wife went outside and slipped on the ice. Why did she slip on the ice? Well, she slipped on the ice because ice is slippery. Why is ice slippery? There's too many things and layers in that conversation that if you don't have the information, like a baby's like, why? Because they don't have a frame of reference. So a lot of the people don't have a frame of reference. And so going back to the bigotry and the bigots, they don't have so much information that it's almost like, I can't really do this work for you. Your racism, I need you to be well studied in your racism before you come to me with the racial slur. Like, I want to have a joke about it. I want to laugh at it if it's funny. I want to like use it for some sort of thing. But I can't even use you to sell merch if your racial epitaph is wrong from the gate. So I need you to take the time to inform yourself. And all of these things are similar. The general public and the liberty and these people on social media that are saying things about libertarians weren't there, don't understand how the delegates chose, don't know the internecine rivalries, do not know how passionate Prague Caucus, other caucus, don't know Project Liberal was putting monies in advancing a lot of people in certain sections. They don't know fundamental things that add to the overall culmination. So I have to be there to watch it for myself to give a full and robust answer on what actually happened. But I am not of the belief that the vast majority of the people that are being critical in these threads, in Clint's thread, in Dave's threads, in my threads, in whatever, I do not think that they're humans. I think that some of these people, that's when we're getting in a deep state. If all of the neocon pundits say the same thing at the same time, that is an organized phenomenon. That's not an accident. At the time, months after, Klaus Schwab, in essence, says libertarianism is the thing that's stopping the global agenda. And now neocons who are statists, like a Posobiec, who's so-called naval intelligence back in the day, these clowns, along with other neo-clowns, jump on the thing. They don't have to give context because their job is to derail the movement. And you're talking to people that haven't read Chase's plank or platform. You're talking to people that think LGBTQ+ and queer are the same thing. They don't know the Marxist plot utilizing under the banner of queer as it relates to politics. They don't know that that means we are trying to end free market enterprise. There is nothing on Chase's platform that talks about ending free market
No,
enterprise.
not at all. There are the two substantive critiques I hear of Chase that aren't just directed at he's gay and we shouldn't have him.
Yeah.
One is his stance on open borders. Now, I know
Yeah.
that's a big point of contention within the libertarian movement. For one, I'm for open borders for the most part. I'm sure I could think of some exceptions. The other one has to do with
You can't have the exemptions if you're saying
the
you're for it.
the
That's,
only
that's the gamble there. That's the sticky spot. But go ahead.
the only point at which, I mean, the other issue is transing kids. Now, my problem with this is from what I can see, he's not for surgery for children, but he says that it should be between parents and their doctors when it comes to puberty blockers, things of that nature. What I find
that's a weak ass answer.
But here's the problem for me with that. I don't know anything about it. I don't know the science behind it. I haven't studied it. And I'd venture to guess that most people with strong opinions haven't either.
Like his platform, they haven't looked.
Right. So when that's the case, if I don't know, my default position is keep the government out.
Yep.
And so I would agree with him. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody couldn't come along and present an argument to me and say, no, this is all BS. There's no such thing as kids that have a gender disorder or any of that. And someone could prove it to me and I'd change my mind. But in absence of that happening, I would agree with him. I wouldn't stand on the street corners with a sign about it, but I would just tend to agree with it.
His wording of that, and I've said this a bunch of times. If they want me to help them, they should hire me, right? But I've said this publicly. His answering of that, A, they're going to cut out some of what you said. That's what happens. Two, if you aren't fully and robustly explaining your position fully, within and damn near repetitively, knowing that they're going to take you out of context, right? I'll give you a perfect example before I jump back to that. I was having a discussion about buying a farm, right? And one of the goofballs was like, I heard that, kept his head down the entire time and was a good little boy when Maj was walking around comfortable. He didn't say shit to me the whole time. He avoided me. And that's smart. Because the last person that made that mistake was Sarwar. And I cussed him out and told him, get the fuck away from me. I don't fuck with you. Right? But yet and still, he found time to eavesdrop on a conversation that I was having about a farm. Right? Now, if you don't know the context, he used that. And I know he's going to go, the money that he fundraised, he bought that farm with that.
I saw
whatever.
it.
Never mind the fact that I have several other businesses floating around Philadelphia. He doesn't know that. And even if he did know that, it doesn't benefit his narrative to say that.
Yeah.
So then this person would then advocate off of libertarian principles and go, oh, look, we looked up his thing and he doesn't have a LLC, which is false, but it's not my job to try to clear that up. Now, if I was running, I would clear that up. I would go, look, here's the paperwork. Here's this, here's that. I benefit from them keeping confusion because people talk and more people come to my page and purchase merchandise. I have not been in any way, shape, or form unclear about that, but that's my position as an entrepreneur. Your haters are your marketing team. Chase's position has A, the people aren't reading, B, the people that are attacking him for other reasons that have nothing to do with him, right? That have a vested interest in keeping a duopoly going, they're not going to give the proper context. They're going to definitely spin you out of context. And he didn't communicate it robust enough, as well as, lastly, this is where he has to take a little bit of accountability. You didn't anticipate you being the presidential candidate 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when you was taking them fucking pictures. When you were saying what you were saying. You didn't anticipate that. And I understand it. My brand is tied into, if I ran for anything, it would still be, it's aggressive, it's urban, it's gritty, and I might put on a suit sometimes.
Yes. Let me just say something, because that's a good point. I have a friend, you mentioned laughing at the racist jokes, right? That people have. I have a good friend of mine. We were in prison for a lot of years together.
Yeah.
And he and I, to this day, he'll message me. And like, if anybody heard the things that we say to each other race-wise, the black guy, we'd
Yeah,
both be canceled for the probably for the rest
right.
of our lives. But the thing is, we're friends. You know what I mean? Like it's not serious. But that's the thing when you run for office, because if somebody had heard he and I talking, just walking around or whatever, and then they said, "Oh, I heard Leibowitz say this to this black guy. Leibowitz is an obvious racist." Now the guy I said it to knows that's not the case,
Here
but you still say it, it gets blown out of
here's the other
proportion.
part to that. Context is the king, really.
Oh yeah.
And it's like it's an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, where Larry David is like trying to say something to the pharmacist to
I
get
love that episode.
yeah. And
I
he was like,
love
no, no,
it.
no, this family that's in my house. Context. It's context. Now, there's a difference between context and people that are just blatantly trying to hide their bigotry and bias
Right.
in the name of patriotism or the homeland, a libertarian homeland. Those people are morons. That's just what it is. My point in saying this about Chase, I don't think he factored in all of those things however long ago. Okay. And there are other people that have vested interests, right? All of the people that are giving legitimate criticisms from their perspective of Chase, not just because he's gay, because morally, if they're Christian libertarians, they may land there. Sodom and Gomorrah is a story in the Bible, and that's their perspective, right? But those people, most of the people that are giving those critiques, I could point something out in their history that they was fucked up. Every single one of the libertarians have said the N-word, black, white, like give it a fucking break. Like it's like, come on, let's not do this holier than thou shit. And actually, there's no footage of me being racially inflammatory or derogatory towards white people, Spanish people. It doesn't exist. Why? Because I'm like, I think a little bit more empathetically. So it's nothing. It doesn't exist. So these people that are pointing the finger at Chase for those reasons, I just would ask you guys to, are you in a glass house right now? Are you throwing stones and hiding your hands? But all of this culminates in everyone has a political lane or a political interest. But I challenge everybody to look at what is this doing for the party and the movement? You have Klaus Schwab basically admitting that we are a problem for them. Then just step back, take this Zbigniew Brzezinski approach. Look at this grand chessboard. There are moves that have been made that you may think are separate, and they are not. The fact that all of these neocons for the last few months have descended on libertarianism, it's not an accident. It's not an accident. When you look at that, and then, okay, this series of strange and unfortunate events happens to the point where we have a presidential candidate under the LP banner that may not be, that's more in alignment with what a more so-called left-leaning libertarian would say, right, or being a part of. Okay, if you're more centrist or right of center, if you don't have the information, you think that Chase Oliver is saying, I'm about here to trans your kids, because I want to tap into that a bit. He didn't answer that question fully. The full answer to that question is, politically, is first, I do not think the government should be making decisions that parents should make. Second, as a libertarian, children can't consent, so we have to defer to the parents. And third, I think that parents should really, really know what they're talking about before they inadvertently allow their child to do something chemically or surgically that could alter their life for the rest of their life, just because their child is maybe being propagandized by mainstream media.
Mm-hmm.
That is a full answer that even if you take me out of context, somebody else can pull up the full answer and call your bullshit for taking me out of context or narrating it or editing it differently. Chase didn't do that. Now, he has at certain points more fully said, I don't think the government should have anything to do with that. But if a crazy rich leftist organization pays me to attack you, I absolutely destroy you with that weak sentence that he has. And I'm aware of how that goes. It's the same as there's very fine people on both sides. There was 4 more goddamn minutes to that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But media went, and then he literally said, Trump says, and I don't mean the neo-Nazis. They should be condemned. That's right after that. But they cut that one part out and they run with that part. I know how that works. So I don't agree with Chase's moral perspective on certain things in his history. I think that there needs to be a fuller conversation that I've yet to see yet that could be around, I have evolved into this perspective, and some things have been taken out of context. I have evolved into this perspective from here because of these reasons. Myself, I was raised Democrat. Up until 2017, I was a Republican. 2018, 2017, something like that. I was a Republican. I've studied liberty and history since I was in high school. But my point in saying this is, I can tell you the story of how I was raised Democrat, why I went Republican as I got more information, when I saw how Republicans were not in alignment with conservatism politically, because they got it lockstep. They can get on a pulpit and talk about Christian values all day. They got that part. But they are not doing that part politically. So I'm like, this ain't the GOP of Frederick Douglass energy. It's not that. So I go evolve into something else and I can explain that. Nobody is explaining how. Same thing with RFK Jr. Oh, I'm not anti-gun anymore. Why? Just because you're running for presidency and you know you can't get the right side of the aisle if you are who you actually are. You have not yet to tell us how you landed here. So same thing with Chase. And maybe, it was a week ago was, the convention. So maybe he needs some time, but, maybe his team will come up with something. But in reality, that part is missing. And I think people that have a vested interest in misrepresenting what libertarians are, because most libertarians in America are not who voted for Chase. Delegates did. Yeah. Excuse me, delegates did. So because of that, it's like, all right. But if you're missing all of that layers of information and you don't factor in the fact that there may be outside influences going out of their way, Republican as well, because we a duopoly, baby. We a duopoly. Yeah, that was wrestling. They blue, we red. Them purple motherfuckers gonna present a problem for us. So, hey, right-wingers, you guys say this. You cannot separate that part of the conversation. If you do, just like Chase and other political figures are not expressing themselves fully and robustly, you're not looking at that whole chessboard fully and robustly. And that's overall a problem. And I'm telling y'all, if one of these big ass companies come give me a big ass bag of money, I'm going to 100% fuck you up because you leave yourself open. And I could consult and 1000% destroy you. I know I could do it. I should open a consulting firm, but I 100% could. I could see every single person that I like, they have a weakness. I've seen no one in the liberty space not have a weakness other than myself. I've built in areas where my weakness is I don't have $100 million yet. But outside of that, I've built in the level of communication. I set up Easter eggs for you to jump at it so I can hit you later. I will bait you on social media to make you say what I need you to say so we can sell more merch. I've been very open about this. This is entrepreneurialism that has to feed other things along with that. So these guys are not, they're thinking more short-term or not so long-term or not robust. And they should think differently. They should approach this differently. Every single person in the liberty space. I've debated Clint about the New Hampshire shit about a year or so ago, right? I like Clint. I like Clint a lot. I think Clint is really, really sharp, right? But Clint can't argue a different type. If you're getting into a battle of like facts against Clint, you probably will lose. You probably will lose. He has a very good memory. He has a very good grasp on the material. But there's other areas that everyone has a weakness in. But I kicked it with Clint down at the convention. My point in saying this is we can struggle and sculpt and fight around certain issues and still advance the movement forward. I think that at the convention, when Clint was called upon, Clint tapped in for the party while saying, I disagree with that. I think everybody should have that perspective. That's what I'm on. And I'm just telling everybody right now, I'm going to do what's the advancement of liberty and what's the advancement of things that some would identify as conservative, politically conservative, like limited government. You let one of these GOP people come give me a bag of money. Y'all better get your fucking talking pieces together, because I'm 100% gonna fuck you up. Somebody come drop $1 million bag on me and I don't have to fundraise and all of that to the same extent, I'm gonna fuck you up.
So
Get better.
you mentioned Clint Russell, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'd never even heard of him until I was at the Connecticut Libertarian Convention. That's where I met you.
Yeah.
And I heard him talking, and Josie, the redheaded libertarian, was there as well. As a result of seeing the three of you there, I followed all three of you on Twitter. And I would see both Josie and Clint make claims. And I would say to them, well, what is the evidence for that claim that you're making? With Josie, I was able to challenge her a little bit more because her stuff is the Constitution, which I happen to know a lot about. Clint was talking about stuff that I'm not as informed about. So I would say to him, well, what is the proof of this? You're saying this happened. Show me the thing. Josie blocked me, and Clint accused me of being a federal agent. Now, at the time, I'm about 9 months out of a 25-year prison sentence, right? So when somebody, the personal attack, I mean, I don't really care too much about it. I think you're a Fed, but the fact that he came to a conclusion like that is so easily shown to be false, tends for me to question other conclusions he gets to. Because if he's coming to a conclusion that I'm a federal agent because I've challenged him on Twitter, and he doesn't even have the wherewithal to look in anything about me, well, all these claims where he's making where I don't know, is he doing the same thing? And why would I think differently?
I think when it comes to especially people with larger social media followings, like I used to block, I unblocked everybody. That's why, like, I unblocked people for 2 reasons recently. One, Elon said your algorithms would get a boost. That was 100% the reason for that. I had a lot of these pages blocked, right? But I unblocked them for that reason. And 2, I need to use these people to, like, get to our goals. I need them to be force multipliers talking about me so their following can come to our page and say, I don't know what the fuck these guys are talking about. But when you have a larger following, as someone that's got kicked off of social media and had a larger following and rebuilding it, and it's medium right now, sometimes you get inundated with so many things, and it all, like, if it's a day of people just going at you, you just go on a blocking spree. And that may not necessarily be the same level of like engagement or battle in the battle place of ideas that libertarians are used to. But after a while, it starts to be like, all right, bro, I just can't right now. So that might have been that. Again, I didn't talk to Clint about that, me personally, but I know that sometimes that's what I do. And I figure out a way. I usually block bots, but I usually figure out a way to make it funny, right? And maybe you ran into that in that space. I can't speak for them, but what I can say is, I think that I do disagree with them on their adamant and not so robust explanation of why they're not going to support the candidate that the party presented. Now, I'm not saying, again, we're having 2 separate conversations, moral reasons and like legislative or policy and principle reasons, right? But I don't know if they read Chase's platform. And if I run into you, if they've seen Chase for years, and Chase, over that time, they seeing him with the flag and with the drag queens, and they've associated him with that, I can understand why it's a quick or snap judgment to go, never mind, I'm out, right? I don't in any way, shape, or form really benefit from the liberty movement. Me personally, I don't. I can just be in the gun community or do hood stuff or just whatever, or I could just be in the health and fitness world. I'm like a 7 out of 10 in a lot of areas that I could just choose to play in one of them on. I just really like the liberty space. I don't, and again, this is not a diss to those folks. I like these people. I'm saying, I don't know if they've taken the time to really, really look into it, because they're like, look, it's LGBTQ plus. He's already said wild shit. And some of the things that could be presented as wild shit that I've found that some of that is not true or taken out of context. Maybe they already ran into a hard no with him. And I understand that. I understand the reason why you would run into a hard no with that. I'm still in between. I'm just more objective than the average person. I'm very, very, very objective. I just go, well, what is the opportunity, if he's taken out of context, instead of just pulling liberty votes, getting people to be liberty from disgruntled Republicans that see that the GOP is feckless and conservatives have conserved very little as it relates to the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Chase could pull from the left and we get some of those people over there. He looks like one of them. I'm sorry, he looks like one of them. So I'm more objective to the overall tactic and strategy that goes along with winning from a both side of the aisle perspective, more than other people may be. They do not. I have this argument all of the time. When I'm talking to my friends that are Democrat, I have this argument with my friend Tone Trump a lot. He's like, bro, especially years ago, bro, you be around them Republicans, you be hanging out with Donald Trump Jr., you be this, that, and the third. I'm like, bro, these people are shooters and they're in the Second Amendment community. And the energy from them that I'm pulling about liberty is making them view, you want my voice in that room. Criminal justice reform, this. Now, everybody in the hood is going, damn, Maj, you was right. Yeah, because I was in those rooms going, you guys are not being limited government as possible. I did a whole breakdown on Frederick Douglass at CPAC, and I was a speaker in front of then President Donald Trump. Me, did that. Frederick Douglass, you guys don't even know who the fuck he is. You're not talking about him enough. You're not telling people the history of the Republican Party enough. I did that at CPAC. Some people said, oh, that's leftist shit. No, it's not. So my objective nature, even in the liberty space, oh, because Maj is having conversations around the topic of reparations. He's a leftist. Well, was Rothbard a leftist? He's a whole article on his approach for reparations. It's on the Mises University website. It's not me making it up. But because you didn't do the due diligence and you heard that one word reparations, you're now triggered by that, just like leftists are triggered by the word gun or Second Amendment, or I just don't have any masters. I am Blade. People on the left, people on the right, and libertarians all have weaknesses that I do not have as a well-rounded person. I got all of the powers of the vampires, and I could be hanging out in the motherfucking daylight. I'm Blade.
Maj, what role do you think, one, Dave Smith not running, and two, Rechtenwald getting the endorsement of the Mises Caucus? What role did those things play in the Mises Caucus not getting their candidate the nomination?
I think that Dave did what Dave needed to do for his family. I was gonna be on that VP ticket if he decided to do it. And I can't go with like, well, you know, he really meant, I don't know what, I can only go by what that man said. I can't go by nothing else. It's not fair. I'm gonna be fair. Did it set the, you know, like the first round draft pick is coveted for a reason. We can't act like Dave isn't coveted in that space. I have to do more to be more articulate about liberty and get off my ass. And instead of hanging out in Miami and growing food and shit, I got to start being like, yo, Dave, put me on Joe Rogan. Yo, let me talk. If he's going to step back in that capacity, even if not publicly, I have to do more for the caucus. I have to do more for the party. That's my personal view. But if I don't have to do it because Dave is great at kicking the shit out of Laura Loomer, today he's going to kick the shit out of Chris Cuomo down at Valuetainment. He's a public speaker. He's a comedian. He knows how to read a crowd. He knows liberty stuff, at least to the point where the general public will understand it and receive it. And he can 1000% make the people that they're sitting in front of him look like absolute morons. Laura Loomer is an absolute moron.
Yeah, that's not hard to do with her.
It's not hard to do. But these are the people that they're sitting in front of him. So if he can do it that way, I understand his and accept his reasoning. And if, you know, if your lady, if she's rode with you for a while, my lady has rode with me for a while, I got to get her a big house. That's it. That's it. Right? So I'm not going to ask people to not acknowledge the important. We can't say we're about liberty in the family unit. And then when somebody says, yo, man, I ran a local city council run. I got my first gray hair from it. So I'm not going to be mad at somebody that is like, yo, this is a rumble. If me and him would have been on that ticket, right? We would have unanimously got the fucking, it would have happened. Now, You got, at the same time, you got Trump and Vivek and RFK Jr. saying, we want to come talk to the libertarians. At the same time, you got Klaus Schwab saying, these libertarians are a problem. If we get in that car together, we are committing a crime against the state. 100%. Your presence and breathing and saying, fuck the state, and attracting urban people, comedian people, all of that is a fuck you tremendously to the state. And every dirty deed, I don't give a fuck about my dirty deeds. Don't care. I told everybody all of them. Womanized a whole lot. I went to fucking got cases. I had baby mama drama. Was on child support. Not on child support no more. Didn't have access to my daughter. All of these different, I already told the world this shit. I'm looking like Trump out here. Baby mama issues. You know what I'm saying? He got to do it himself. I'm getting the Trump treatment out here, right? My point in saying that is, if you don't like that scrutiny that's going to come with that, when you get in that car, once we get in this car, bro, you are my co-defendant. That's it. When you get the state's attention, you now have their attention. And if you're not playing ball with that bag of money, which I'm not going to do, right? If you're not playing ball with that bag of money, okay. All right. Every single celebrity that has pushed back against very powerful people, some strange shit and allegations come up about him not long after that. So my point is, I'm not mad at anybody that doesn't want to put their family, their wife, their children through that. I'm not mad at him.
But you do think the result would have been different had he decided to run?
Man, we would have fucking took the world by, like, come on, bro. Like, okay.
When Rechtenwald just not a good candidate. I mean, look, can we just be honest?
Who's not a good candidate?
Rechtenwald, the guy they endorsed.
I've read Rechtenwald's books before I even knew he was in the caucus. I didn't know who he was. I just read the book or his books. My point in saying that is, I don't think that he wasn't a good candidate. I think that we have a picture of Dave looks like a fucking Kennedy in front of that camera.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, Rechtenwald.
So just because somebody's
he doesn't have charisma, you know what I mean?
I don't necessarily need, my Glocks aren't charismatic. They're just reliable.
Yeah, they're not getting a nomination.
but that's my point. I don't need, they get nominated every time I carry them. I want a boringly reliable candidate at certain points. Listen, we got to pick which aisle we want. If we saying, oh, it shouldn't be about personality. Okay, there's Rechtenwald. And he knows the material.
I don't disagree with your take, but nonetheless, people do gravitate towards candidates that with personality, with charisma.
And if that's the case, then all of our supporting cast and our mouthpieces for liberty need to be the charismatic people. It's the reason why Dave is making the strides that he's making. Sure. Listen, if I can get Kobe first round, we're getting Kobe. 100%. But I'm not gonna thumb my nose up at getting Kyrie Irving, insert whoever else that, like, listen, guys, Tom Brady was not a fucking first round pick.
No, but Josh Smith was also and I'm not a fan of his at all, but he was still a possibility for the Mises Caucus to endorse. And he's got more charisma. He talks the talk that, you know.
Okay, so now we're going back to the PR move, right?
Yeah.
And listen, all of these people are my friends. I consider them friends and associates. I want to be clear about that. That's why, if everybody noticed, I expressed my support for Rechtenwald, but I didn't trash any other candidate. The whole time, I was the Homer Simpson meme. I'm just, right? Out of respect, not out of cowardice. I want to be clear about that. I see the pros and cons to, listen, I see the pros and cons to Dave. Some people would have been like, he's a comedian. He's a joke. He's still got that comedian smell on him, right? I see some people with myself. This is your VP? This guy's got fucking gun charges. Like, I argue against my own point to see what my weaknesses are.
Yeah.
So Josh, I can see his Josh edgelords a little bit much or holds court with too many of these fucking edgelords. I say the same thing about Clint. I think a lot of the Tower gang are clowns.
I'm glad you brought them up because that's where I want to go next.
Okay.
Not necessarily just them, but they're the example. I saw you get into an exchange a while back. It could have been a month. I don't know, 2 months, whatever. But you explained something to somebody that I understood immediately, but I bet you a lot of people don't get. And they said that if somebody wants to hit me for saying the N word, that's ridiculous. You shouldn't fight over words. And your point back was that may be true. But if the guy doesn't want to hear that shit and cracks your skull's still cracked. And you can say, well, he shouldn't have hit me all you want. And a lot of these people, and I think of the Tower Gang because of the way that they say things and what they say, they don't understand that there's people out there that do not care and that will act violently. Now, I have to be very careful because of my past in getting into those types of conversations. So I end up just leaving them. But I nonetheless am well aware there's people out there that don't care. You could say you're wrong all you want. I mean, when I was in prison and I sent you the picture of the guy, a group of people kept tormenting this guy for being gay. And you could do that all you want. And you could say, well, he shouldn't respond with words. But you know what? The guy still has a scar across his face and down his neck because the guy taped a razor blade to a toothbrush. And we can all pontificate about how bad violence is. Nonetheless, you got the scar. You know what I mean?
Bro. Forget that I am a supporter of the non-aggression principle.
Sure.
2 things, maybe 3 or 4 things. But 1, these guys are acting in aggressive manners, but because it's not physical violence, then they say you can't violate the non-aggression principle after you were aggressively talking to people or doing things aggressively towards them, right? It's like that lady that is being all over Cannes Film Festival was holding her arm out and scooting the celebrities up the thing, and she got into it with Kelly Rowland, and the one lady was trying to let her dress with the face of Jesus roll, and the lady was, the security guard didn't hit any of the celebrities, but she was acting in an aggressive manner to try to like push them along. Now, if somebody would have turned around and slapped the shit out of her, people that understand real life will go, yeah, you were being a dick to this person. No, you didn't hit him, but that's their ethos, not yours. These guys use the non-aggression principle as like a home base. Home base, non-aggression principle, while then masquerading online like they're really tough guys. I walked around with my arms and shoulders, and I walked around in shades the entire convention, and none of these people tweeted, posted, said, looked at any area that I was in. And that's smart. That's smart. But all of this moxie that you have online when you're back in the safety of your state is cowardice. And so not forget the non-aggression principle. However, basic man stuff, I'm not going to get into it or argue back and forth with the dude unless I'm ready to fight potentially or stab or shoot this person. Or accept that I might get into a fight, get stabbed or shot by this person.
Well, that's exactly what I mean. That these guys, and I just think of the Tower Gang because they're the worst. I
get it. I get it. I know what they're gonna do. They're gonna talk that shit. If I check them, if I walk up to them and smack the shit out of them, they're gonna say like they have said. Maj is an ape. He has low IQ, impulse control. Man, I'll fuck you up, bro. I will fuck you up. However, it's not really worth it.
No, it's not. But
I can see your plays. You're predictable. It's no different than I just go, okay, cool. Let's say vague things, right? That's gonna get under your skin. Like here's something that might get under my skin, right? If I made a company and I was pretending that I was selling something as a coin, and it was actually in a security, and then a judge, and then another judge in the Securities and Exchange Commission gang banged my company, and my company went into oblivion, and I had initially raised like $12 million, and the company went bankrupt, and then I started losing weight, and then I lost an election, and then in my state, I don't know, got kicked out of an executive position for this thing that I thought I was a part of. I would be frustrated too. I would be frustrated if I put off, and I would lash out if I was a weak man. That's what we're seeing here with some of these people. They made a company, they did all of this, they thought they were on top of the world. They lose, they make little edgy videos, and that's cool, but that doesn't win elections. Then you lose, then people get tired of your antics, and then they kick you from a project in your state. Now you're frustrated, but instead of rebuilding, you now want to blame it on the black dude. You want to blame it on they're getting attention because they're black, or how much does he pay in taxes? At the same time, you're saying fuck the state, the IRS, and fuck the Fed. These people don't see their level of contradiction and inconsistency. That's the real pandemic.
And let me just say, Maj, if you did run up on any of the dudes we're talking about, I'd bet dollars to peanuts the first thing they're going to do is call the cops that they claim they hate.
Listen, bro, this happened at the Trump situation. One of the dudes that I didn't know who he was, people come up to me and ask for questions and pictures and advice all the time. I never am rude to anybody. There's nobody that can say that they, in good faith, legit. There's nobody that can say, I walked up to Maj, I was asking him a question and he wasn't super nice to me. There's nobody that can legitimately say that.
I can attest.
It's just like, come on, bro. You know what I'm saying? But if you come at me with the bullshit, like that one dude did, I told him to eat a dick. This was at the convention. I was like, eat a dick. Eat a dick right in front. And people on the internet will say it didn't happen. It did. And then the police came. It was in the Trump thing. And he was like, what's going on? And I was like, oh, nothing. It was just a miscommunication. Nothing. He was being rude to me, being disrespectful. I heightened my level of rude because I was trying to provoke him. Be very clear, because I didn't want to not violate the non-aggression principle. So I said very disrespectful and rude things to him that any other man that you say to, they will want to tee off on you. He didn't. He folded. He showed no heart. All fold. All fold. So I couldn't do nothing. I tried to provoke him. I used my words. I tried to get him. He was a pussy. The police came. I said, I'm sorry, it's my fault. There's nothing happening. We just was arguing a little bit. It's okay. Roles reversed. They go, he hit, they do what Sarwark did. Ah, he hit me. Him right here. He hit me. There's no honor in these people. But the beauty of it is they're a small section of the libertarian movement. They're not the majority of the situation. So saying that to say, I have faith that there's more people that'll be solid. I have faith that if I got into a fight with Dylan was at the booth, at the Mises booth. If I got into a fight, Dylan's jacked, Dylan's ex-military, Dylan's, a trainer. If I got into a fight with Dylan, we would fight and then we would have a fucking beer and we would move on, right? If I got into a fight or a shouting match with Scott Horton, we would fight, we would argue, and then we would have a beer and move on. You and I, if we disagree, we have disagreed. We've argued. Sure. And I'll be like, yo, come do the pot. All right, cool. Like, there's a certain level of manhood that some of these guys just do not have, and they're hiding behind the non-aggression principle to justify their lack of masculinity.
The lack of decency, really, right? Just being decent people.
I can't really, they'd have to pay me tuition to teach them that lesson. And it's not my job. So like, I get it. They on what they on, but I do think that that's the reason why we need, this is my new, renewed, because it's not new, my renewed vigor in bringing more people from urban and rural demographics that are just like, I need some corn-fed white boys that have been drinking whiskey. I need Ian Smiths. I was kicking it with him that Saturday at the bar. I need more Ian Smiths in the Mises caucus, in the party. I don't need the people that are pussies, because strong men hate being around fucking cowards. You've been in the pen 20 some odd years. We hate fucking people that are like, come on, bro. Like, or at least just say, yo, man, I'm not into that. That's more, hey, bro, I'm not fighting. I'm not into that. Y'all got that going on. I'm not a part of it. Now, depending on where you at, if you in the feds, look, the whites is going to be with the whites. The blacks is going to be with the blacks. That's just what it is. Sorry. However, and I'm saying this from secondhand experience. I have never been to a federal penitentiary ever. Okay. With that being the case, we got to put our big boy pants on and be around some of these cowards and shape them up. We can't just be like, I'm not around these fucking cowards, and because I know how annoying it is. But we can't do that and leave the party to the fucking cowards. when so much progress has been made. Klaus Schwab don't bring you up for nothing. It literally, there is a libertarianism.
Good impression.
These are things that, like, we can't ignore that. There's the saying about stopping the digging 3 feet from gold.
Yeah, from Think and Grow Rich.
You know what I'm saying? And we 3 feet from it. That's why I'm gonna challenge. I'm gonna publicly challenge, and I have. I don't want Dave to leave the party. I don't know, people like, no, he's still gonna do the movement. No, I want him to be selfishly. I want these people to be in the movement and the party. I don't want, even if we all disagree on certain shit, I don't want a Clint to down the party overall because of what some delegates did and the mistakes that the Mises Caucus made. I think that, I said it in Reno, you won the championship. That's cool. You got the belt. Now Clubber Lang is floating. And he watching. And when you beat somebody up and they get quiet and lick their wounds, they become a very dangerous animal. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I'm just going to challenge everybody to do more for the party, right? I might fuck around and help Chase. I might. I don't know. But we got to start doing something to stop. We're giving ground to other leftists. Leftists come in, infiltrate. That's why I want everybody to read the Communist Manifesto. Go look at what the socialists and the Marx do. They took the rainbow. The rainbow used to be a symbol of God's promise of his return in the Bible. They took the rainbow. They took the word liberal. You gonna let them take libertarian now too? No, bro. I challenge everybody. I'm adamant. I love y'all all, but I'm gonna push back against this narrative that we're supposed to just, it doesn't represent me. Yeah, and then you give more and more room to the thing that doesn't look like what you built. This is my fucking corner. That's it. All of the goofballs, the racist tropes, that shit, man, fuck you. Because when I'm in the room with you, you do exactly what you're supposed to do. You quiet. You put your head down. This my shit now. I want all of the libertarians to think about that for the party. That's how the Marines were created. That's how the fucking Constitution was created. Stop with this, like, I don't like being around the cowards. There were loyalists that were loyal to the crown. It's in every great fucking movie. We're in the times that we're talking about. We're in those times. Everybody should watch The Count of Monte Cristo. Everybody. When motherfucking Napoleon,
I'd rather they read it than watched
Island
it.
of Elba, there were loyalists there. It's in every time period in history. Fuck the loyalists. We about this freedom shit. Do not give them an inch. Leaving the party, only focusing on the movement, is giving them the inch.
Maj,
Okay, it's only bump stocks. You're giving them the inch. Fuck they inch.
I'm glad you brought up bump stocks because there's something I want to ask you before I let you go because it's absolutely driving me batty. And it's this Trump conviction. Now, I have no doubt that there were some shenanigans going on there and it's an unfair trial, but nothing that I've seen about the way that the jury instructions, the way the prosecutor acts, none of that surprises me. I've seen it before. And it absolutely drives me nuts that you have these law and order conservatives all of a sudden complaining about an unfair system when for decades I've heard Black people talk about an unfair system and they were told you need to take responsibility for your actions. Now that it's their hero who's in it, all of a sudden the system is flawed and it's corrupt. And it's just like, look, someone said to me yesterday, oh, you're not going to mention this injustice? And I said, oh, I've been complaining about the criminal justice system for years, and I'll do so.
You did a quarter of a century in jail.
Yeah, and I'll talk about it long after he's gone. But I'm not going to get all up in arms because your guy now did it. Where was that when Trump was talking about the Central Park Five there, saying that they should all get the death penalty, has never apologized, and still badmouths him as recently, I think, as 2013. No one mentions the injustice that he's recommended take place against them, but it happens to him in a courtroom where he's probably going to get probation. He's most likely not even going to do time. And that's where I'm supposed to be upset. I just, the hypocrisy makes me sick.
So it's several layers to that. I take everything that they do when their contradictions are exposed. Instead of me saying, I told you so, I go, yeah, come on. Now, I'm glad you're up to speed. And then show them how we should have been doing this. Huge shouts to my homegirl, Angela Stanton King, who was a part of all of that during the Trump last go round, right? Trump, she got a presidential pardon from Trump. Fed charges. That's like 2 unicorns, right? State charges are more often, right? You get the governor's pardon, right? So that's that. I think that it's not about whether Trump learns his lesson. I don't care. Trump's actions are not going to impact me. The people that listen to Trump are the people that we're getting an understanding to and leaning in the direction of actual liberty. They have been exposed to milquetoast definitions of conservative values. I understand that. When they become more radicalized, don't repulse them. Don't push them away. When they become more radicalized because it took that for them to get it, I go, yeah. Then start showing them about Mumia Abu-Jamal. Then start showing them about Russ Albright. Then start showing them about shootings by the police, Tony Tempa. Then start showing them about the Move 9. Then start showing them all of these other lessons that they're milquetoast conservatives that was just back to blue, right? Similar to when people say, vote blue no matter who. When you show them those contradictions, aid them in their journey towards limited government and more liberty. Every single one of these crises are opportunities for us to use as teachable moments. If strategically and tactically, if we do that, we win more. I don't want somebody, it's like the girl that you used to have attraction to, and then you see her 10 years later, and if she's not like horribly out of shape and she's still hot, and now she's grown the fuck up and wants to give you some play, you're supposed to take the layup. It took her a while to understand that you were a solid dude since high school, or at least a nice dude since high school. Cool, great. Now I'm going to fuck you. I wanted to fuck you in high school. I'm going to fuck you now. Okay? Imagine if whoever says is the most beautiful girl and I loved her for however long, 10, 15 years, and she was still hot. And she was like, you know what? I remember that you used to try to talk to me in school, and I think I'm going to give you a chance. Let's go out. And then you go, fuck you. You should have took that opportunity. That's retarded. That's retarded. Take the win. The libertarians need to learn how to take wins. Okay, you got Chase Oliver. Where can we work with him? Where can we be very vocal about what we disagree with and influence him to not repeat that shit and give a fuller statement about what the fuck he meant and how he's being taken out of context? Use that. Don't run away from the Liberty Party because you know, as the person that's there, you know the internecine rivalries that the general public doesn't. You're working against yourself. And so when I see those people do those things, there's a hashtag floating around, Maj is mostly right. The Reno reset speech was literally this. Some of you are going to fold. Some of you will be offered bags of money. Some of you will stick through, but I don't believe that most of you will. I wasn't like trying to be funny or edgelording. It was me going, great, you want a battle. It's harder to wake up when you want them silk sheets in the morning. And Clubber Lang exists. And Clubber Lang never goes away. Clubber Lang is the lower version of yourself that's making you not expand and figure out ways. My Clubber Lang that I'm dealing with right now individually is, do I figure out a way, can I figure out a way to try to support Chase Oliver while maintaining my principles? As opposed to the easier route, which is going, no, it's not good for, it's more work for me to engage that. And it could be more difficult for my brand. It could. But based on what I see and what I know he said and context, I would struggle, and it will be harder for me to come up with a foolproof method of explaining how I'm still in the party and I'm still supporting the candidate. Most people would not be able to do that. And it's not, of course you all were going to support if it was a Maj Toure The New Hampshire motherfuckers might have got on board if it was a Dave Smith, Maj Toure ticket. That's not hard. That's not hard. Of course you were against slavery now. It was difficult when motherfucking people, when slavery was the thing and people was like, hey guys, we shouldn't do this. No, I'm not going to own humans. I'm sorry. That was what, two or three presidents that didn't own slaves during that time period? It's not.
A lot harder to be John Brown, right?
Yeah, it's like, come on, bro. You be John Brown when that shit means something. It's easy to say, fuck the government, fuck the police when it's convenient. It's easy to go, oh, the system is flawed. Now that your guy is trumped up charges, pun intended. Where was you in, you know what I mean? So now, cool. I appreciate that you're here now. Here's some next steps that you can take this a little bit further. And you got to go further, do something more difficult. And you got to go faster because you got to make up for the lost time that you was with the fucking rhinos or the leftists even before that. You have to make up for this lost time. And that's the direction that I would like to see the Libertarian Party go in. And that's the internal challenge that I'm having with myself. Because it's going to be definitely more difficult for me to just... I have false rape accusation charges on my jacket. The paperwork is out there, and it was clear that it was false, right? But now, if it looks like, oh, so Maj, if they've packaged Chase Oliver as he's okay with transitioning kids, and they've grouped that with the LGBTQ rainbow shit, and then you go help that, oh, Maj, you must have been one of them. I know what they're going to try to do. This isn't complicated. It's a chessboard. I would do it if I was a fucking supervillain. Absolutely, I would. Right? So this is the next challenge. And the most of the people that are listening to this, that if they're any level of objective, they don't struggle with those same levels of what my history and brand is. You just got to struggle with a way to still support the party and articulate why. You got to just battle with, I get it. I get it. Yo, I'm going to support from the outside. I'm just going to support the movement. I hear you. I hear you. And I'm not judging you because of it. I'm just saying that's not top tier. That's not tier one shit. That's not tier one shit. Tier one shit is, I know why friends run in a fight. I know why friends run away. You don't want to get your ass whipped. But the friends that stay there and get your ass whipped together, that's tier one shit. We're going to get the shit beat out of us. But our principles are standing there. All of the fucking Rocky movies. It's not you fucking getting hit. It's about you getting hit, knocked down, and getting the fuck back up. Maybe everybody should come fucking take a trip to Philly and like remind themselves of what the whole American thing was supposed to be about. The British Empire was the most powerful military at the time. Imagine be going like, oh, I'm gonna help the movement from the outside. I'm not gonna sign my name like John Hancock did. John Hancock was a fucking pirate.
It
was
like,
like, oh, y'all want to do
death. They not won. He was dead.
Yeah. Biggest shit right here. Me.
Yeah.
John fucking me. What do y'all want to do? What do y'all want to do? That's a legitimate question.
It absolutely. That was great, Maj. That's a great place to close. But before we leave, so tell people, where can they find you?
Guys, if you got any value from this work, huge shouts to Liquid Freedom, Blood of Tyrants. Huge shouts to Next Level Training, Cert Pistols. Use code BGM, get 10% off. You need to be training, get a Cert Pistol. Donate to the work, man. GiveSingo.com/solutionary. If you got any value from this conversation today, you might be able to push back too. But if you got some value from it, support our work, man. We're trying to raise $200,000 to buy our building. This is the back office of the Solutionary Center. We need everybody's hands on deck. If you don't want to donate and not get nothing in return, go buy a shirt. Go to blackgunsmatter.shop, buy some merch, buy a hoodie. I think we're going to do a $20 sale, like $25 sale on all of the hoodies. Go get them bitches because fall will be here very, very shortly. Buy some merch. We got the Trump tees on there. We got the Freedom Over Everything tees. One for 25, two for the second one for 25% off. Got a bunch of sales, blackgunsmatter.shop, givesendgo.com/solutionary to donate. That's where you can find me. Twitter, Maj Toure 999, Big Daddy Toure on Instagram, solutionaryuniversity.org. And I'll end here. You survived the biggest psyop in the world since 2020. You're here. They told you it was going to be the zombie apocalypse. You're here. The last 4 years have been one of the worst economies America has ever seen. You're here. At least since the Great Depression. You're here. You've survived massive money printing. You're here. Keep going. If you want to email me, you want to chop it up about shit, you want to do an event, email me, majtoure@solutionary.org. Email me. If you're just going through shit, you want to talk, email me your phone number. I don't know you, but I have love for you. I would rather talk to you about your shit than read your obituary. So you got my email. It's open. I promise you I'm not Hollywood. Support the work. If you got some value from this, share this podcast around. Chop up clips of it. Make fucking clips. Use it to boost your algorithms. Sell merch, become an affiliate, whatever. All of the above. But just make sure that you're being kind to others and being kind to yourself, because they tried to fucking take you out of here and you're still here.
Thanks a lot, Maj.
No doubt.
For now, this is the Rational Egoist signing out. I'm Michael Liebowitz. Till next time.